Right now, Australia is facing the hardest affordability crisis we've had in over 20 years. Interest rates are up, the cost of living is getting harder, incomes are getting squeezed, making it really tough for first-time home buyers to get into the market. To give you an idea, the average income needed to service a new mortgage has skyrocketed to nearly 49% nationally. This is a significant jump over the last decade alone, especially in cities like Sydney, where you now need 74% of your take-home income to service a new loan on a house. To give you an idea, we had a client recently, Gemma, who was renting in Melbourne, a little unit. Her rent skyrocketed on a one-bedroom unit up from $390 a week to $450 a week, which is way beyond her reach despite her average income and frugal lifestyle. Yeah, so Gemma joined a growing trend of people who decide to move back home. And I know this isn't possible for a lot of people, but it can be the difference between getting into a home or continuing to sort of struggle to pay rent. So in this video, we're going to explore this idea a bit more, try and cut through some of these really challenging markets and perspectives that are in the market. It is getting tougher, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we've got a couple of ways that you can navigate this challenging market across the cost of living and help you get into your first home this year. So we've seen rents going up nationwide. This is a common issue across the country. We've seen the time taken to save a deposit increase to about 10 years on average, just for your minimum deposit. So we've seen huge issues, not only in the rental market, but in being able to afford your own home. So we're going to go through 3 tips for first homeowners to get in the market sooner. And we're going to also give you 3 tips for any mistakes we see first homeowners make, common mistakes we see them make, and how to avoid them.
You must save yourself.
Firstly, explore government schemes. There is the home guarantee scheme where you can buy a home with a minimum of 2% deposit if you're a single parent, 5% if you're a first home buyer. There's also a home equity scheme that is available in certain states like Victoria that allow you to get in with a lower deposit sooner. There's also government grants. So if you're buying a brand new property in Queensland, for example, there's $30,000 up for grabs. Depending on the estate you're in, it ranges from $10,000 to $15,000. Some states don't have it, but something to look into. But understand these schemes that are really available there for you to get into the market sooner. A 5% deposit can mean you can actually make your dreams of home ownership much sooner than trying to save up that 10 or 20% deposit some of the lenders need as a bare minimum. The second thing to consider is different locations. Now, it's been said on average, most people buy within 5 kilometers of where they're currently living, which really does restrict you, because if you're just looking in the suburbs that are near and dear to you, you might be priced out, you might find it's unaffordable, you might find there's not enough stock. So don't be wedded on a certain area. Try different areas. We've seen people hire Airbnbs. They live in a certain area for a week just to get a feel of what it's like. Maybe looking at a suburb that you never considered could be that difference between getting in the market at an affordable price and not. The third is recalibrating your expectations, I guess in line with the current market. I just saw a recent stat that unit price was increasing higher than house growth this year. So people are shifting towards, saying, well, your first home doesn't need to be a forever home. It could be worth considering a unit. It might be nice to have a backyard. If you've got a dog, it's becoming more common for units in the body corporates to be fine of having a pet there. So consider that as a way to get in the market in a place where you want to live and be near. Yeah, I think on top of adjusting your expectations, don't think of the property as your forever home. This could be your stepping stone to get in the market now. You can always buy this one, hold on to it, and maybe sometime in the future you can trade up. So don't think of it as the absolute perfect home that you need. It might just get you in the market now, especially as we see rents going up. It'll get you out of that sort of cycle where you're not able to save. You can get equity in the property potentially if it increases over time. So something to keep in mind. And if you do find value in these videos, please consider hitting that like button, as it really does help out the channel. And a big thank you to all our subscribers. For your support inspires us to create more content. We hope you enjoy.
Here's to you.
Now, Jaden, let's move on to 3 common mistakes we nearly see most first homeowners make. Yeah, the first one is underestimating the extra cost. So obviously you've got your mortgage repayment, how much the bank will lend you to buy your property, but it's worth considering the pluses. A common one we see these days is body corporate or strata fees. Did you know this can actually impact how much the bank will lend you? I had a situation recently that they were looking at buying in a building here in Brisbane. The building was amazing. It had a sauna, it had a gym, it had an ice bath. It was sweet, but the body corporate costs were over $10,000 a year. On average, I'm seeing a standard walk-up unit that might only have $3,000 or $4,000 in body corporate expenses. So this is an extra $6,000 on top of that, and that impacted their borrowing capacity, how much the banks will lend you, because the bank is saying, well, you're paying $10,000, we kind of expect it to be $4,000, it's going to come out of your pocket. So keep that in mind. That can be a few $100s a week in that case that you can have to pay towards a body corporate, which is an unexpected cost.
The second one is understanding the importance of a pre-approval. A lot of people don't realize that when the bank actually assesses your application, the number that you might have anticipated you can borrow can drastically change. Like Jaden's example there, if you're buying a property with body corporate, that can reduce your borrowing amount. If you've got a lot of overtimes, you've got a lot of unique incomes, allowances, commissions, bonuses, some lenders can take it on board, some lenders might. If you're not careful, they might not include it, which can drastically change your borrowing ability. So getting a pre-approval in place is vital, but also making sure that pre-approval is fully assessed. There's a lot of lenders that will just stamp the pre-approval and say, yeah, you're good to go, but they've looked at nothing. So once you actually go ahead and you find the right property, there's been no validation of your information. They start asking questions, and maybe that loan amount you thought you could get is no longer the amount that you can actually borrow. So very important to get that pre-approval in place, just so you can get that confidence on your loan ability, because once the bank looks at it and says, yep, you're pre-approved, you're good to go, you can know for sure that's the number you can go for.
The third mistake is to forget about investing. Now, a common trend I've seen a lot of people doing lately is they're seeing, well, potentially I'm priced out if I buy a home to live in. Yeah, it's great to get home buying incentives and benefits from the government, but my affordability might not be as much as if I buy an investment.
That's exactly right. So the third one people don't understand is rent vesting. We've seen with recent data from the Commonwealth Bank highlighting that millennials are the most active demographic when it comes to investing in Australia. In 2023, 46% of new property investors were millennials, which surpassed Generation X, which was only 37% of new investors. The average age of property investors nationally is now 43 years old, with the average loan size just over $500,000.
And interestingly, over 1/3 of these investors were solo investors. So they weren't buying with a friend or a couple, they were buying on their own. We have seen a trend that's bucked the traditional way of buying, where you might buy on your own, you might buy with your partner. We've seen more and more people considering buying with friends in different ownership arrangements there. There are some banks that will accommodate this, called property share, where if Nathan and I were buying, if he owned 60%, I owned 40%, the bank can actually split the loan, so we're not having a joint loan. We've got more details on that website if you're interested in pursuing that further.
And this trend of rent vesting, which is purchasing a property which is in an affordable area and renting where you prefer to live, continues to grow amongst young Australians, particularly because of that affordability piece. You can literally buy an investment way out in Perth if you're living in Brisbane, live in the city in Brisbane, and know that you're getting your cake and eating it too. You've got something that might be capital appreciating, where you can afford, and it's not going to impact your lifestyle. Like we talked about earlier, a large chunk of people's take-home income is going towards their mortgage. So where you can get that balance, rent vesting is hugely popular and something a lot of first homeowners don't even consider.
On that point, Nathan, securing the right mortgage is a pretty important step here. Knowing the difference between your affordability if it's a home to live in versus an investment can be the difference between you moving forward and getting the market and being left behind. That's where a mortgage broker like us can help out.
We care about you.
We can compare different banks, different policies, if you get paid overtime, if you don't. Different banks actually use different amounts of rental income when they're assessing your borrowing capacity. So working with a mortgage broker can give you a much wider range of options and give you a path forward to helping you into the property ladder.
And that's why navigating through the housing market as a first homeowner can be daunting. But with the right strategy and understanding, it's entirely possible to make an informed and confident decision. Remember, we're here to help. Here at Hunter Galloway, hit us up directly at huntergalloway.com.au, or you can call us directly on 1300 088 065. Guys, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.